And the 1-2. Low, 2 balls, 2 strikes on Beckham. Brad Ausmus now out to talk with Tim Welke. Well, the Tigers right now are making a change here in mid-inning. Austin Jackson's being pulled out of the game, and this probably is something that is real indicative of what's about to happen.
On July 31st, 2014, Detroit Tigers outfielder Austin Jackson was traded mid-game just before the trade deadline passed. He was part of a 3-team deal that sent Jackson and Nick Franklin to the Mariners, Drew Smyly and Willie Adames to the Rays, and David Price to Detroit. Price was the headliner, but Jackson was a very talented player. Between 2010 and 2014, Jackson solidified himself as a top 10 center fielder. He made many memorable plays during his Tigers tenure, but in this moment, his tenure became a thing of the past. It was kind of a weird moment right there, taking that last jog off the field, knowing that's pretty much the last time I'll be running off in a Tigers uniform. Jackson wasn't the first player to be traded mid-game, and he won't be the last. But there's someone else that's well known for being part of a mid-game trade, and it shaped the current baseball landscape in numerous ways. But the funny thing about this trade is that it never actually happened. Real quick, I want to thank these commenters for this suggestion. And if at any point you're enjoying the video, consider leaving a like and subscribing for future content. And if you have a butterfly effect scenario you want me to cover, leave it down in the comments. Alright, let's go back to the 2015 All-Star break. The Mets were sitting 5 games over 500 and were firmly in the wildcard race. So, over the next couple weeks, the team made some acquisitions for their playoff push, including Juan Uribe, Kelly Johnson, and Tyler Clippard. But the biggest potential acquisition was Brewers outfielder Carlos Gomez. As one of the league's premier outfielders, a trade of this magnitude commands a premium return. With many teams rumored to be interested, the Mets emerged as a real contender. The Brewers were rumored to be very interested in young shortstop Wilmer Flores, with one potential combination being Flores and starting pitcher Zach Wheeler for Gomez. Well, this is exactly what happened. On July 29th, less than 1 hour after this Rosenthal tweet, New York Post writer Joel Sherman tweeted that Gomez was being traded to the Mets and Flores and Wheeler were heading to Milwaukee. Former Mets Director of Baseball Operations Adam Fisher said a lot of the members of the Mets front office thought this was a bit of an overpay, but GM Sandy Alderson was willing to overpay. Alderson said if the team made the World Series and lost, people would blame that loss on not getting another bat. So that's what he did. But there was one problem. Flores was in the middle of a game. By the 7th inning, news of the trade had circulated around the stadium, which led to Flores receiving a standing ovation. However, no news was given to Flores, his teammates, or manager Terry Collins. Flores asked a friend to look at his phone, and that's how he received the news that he was traded. David Wright, who was injured at the time, came out of the clubhouse to tell Collins that the trade was official, but Collins had received no word from the front office. Then Flores got back on the field, and all the emotions poured out. It definitely caught me by surprise. That was one of the reasons I got a little bit emotional, because I didn't know I could be traded. A lot of players feel that way when you play 5 or 6 years in one place, especially the place that signed you for the first time. You come up with all of your teammates, and that's where you want to stay, and where you think you're going to play forever. At the same time, a similar scene was occurring in the Brewers team plane as Carlos Gomez received word he was being traded. Like Flores, Gomez was saying goodbye to an organization that placed a lot of faith into him, and he rewarded them with all-star level play. This is the side of baseball we don't normally see, so watching it actually play out in real time was astonishing. Eventually, Alderson told Collins to take Flores out of the game, but once he made his way into the trainer's room, Mets COO Jeff Wilpon told Flores he wasn't being traded. Immediate confusion. This same information became public less than an hour after the initial breaking tweet. This time, Ken Rosenthal tweeted that a Mets official said the world had jumped the gun. Kinda funny seeing Rosenthal being the one to break this type of news. Then, another hour later, Alderson himself said that the deal was off. How did this trade go from a certainty to dead in the water in less than 2 hours? It was assumed it was due to Zach Wheeler's medicals since he underwent Tommy John surgery before the season. But the Mets team physician reviewed Gomez's medicals and said his hip was too much of an issue, concluding one of the strangest trade sagas in recent history. Funny enough, less than 24 hours later, the Mets essentially hit rock bottom. The Mets were up 7-1 at one point, but after a Derek Norris grand slam, the lead was much tighter. Although the Mets made it all the way to the 9th inning and only needed 1 out to win. But the umpires called a rain delay, which lasted 44 minutes. Right after the delay, Norris resumed his at-bat and got a single. Then Matt Kemp got a single. And then Justin Upton, in the pouring rain, broke all Mets fans' hearts with a 3-run home run. Worst of all, the umpires called another rain delay, this time for nearly 3 hours. Needless to say, the Mets had hit rock bottom. But the following day, it seemed that their fortunes had taken a turn for the better.
Flores drives it, deep left center field, Taylor back, near the wall, it's out of here! Flores ends it with a home run!
On the same day of this walk-off, the Mets traded for Tigers outfielder Wilmer Cespedes. He went on a complete tear with the Mets, and he was a key reason as to why the Mets won the NL East and made the World Series. This story could end here, but the consequences of this trade stretch much further. Let's start with the Cespedes trade. After the 2015 season, he re-signed with the Mets on a 3-year deal, but he opted out after the 2016 season and signed a new 4-year deal. However, his Mets tenure was one of the strangest in recent memory. He was great when he was on the field, but injuries severely lessened his potential impact for the team. After playing 8 games in 2020, Cespedes opted out of the season, and he hasn't played for an MLB team since. As for the players the Mets traded to Detroit, only one of them actually played for the Tigers, pitcher Michael Fulmer. He made his big league debut in 2016 and was named the AL Rookie of the Year. After an All-Star appearance in 2017, it seemed that Fulmer had solidified himself as a legitimate big league starting pitcher. However, prior to the 2019 season, Fulmer underwent Tommy John surgery. But Fulmer is still playing for the Tigers as a reliever, a role he has excelled in. The other player in the Cespedes trade was pitcher Luis Cessa, who was traded to the Yankees only a few months later. In that deal, the Yankees received Cessa and Chad Green, and the Tigers received Justin Wilson. Cessa's Yankees tenure was okay, but Green turned into a reliable reliever before undergoing Tommy John surgery just a couple months ago. As for Justin Wilson, his Tigers tenure lasted only a season and a half, and he was eventually traded 2 more times. We'll start with the most recent trade, which happened last year. Near the deadline, Wilson was traded by the Yankees, who signed Wilson before the season, and he ended up going to the Reds. However, the Yankees traded someone else in that deal. That player was Luis Cessa. 6 years earlier, they were traded for each other, all to end up in the same trade once again. But there's one more trade involving Wilson I want to look at. Back in 2017, the Tigers traded Wilson and Alex Avila to the Cubs for young infielders Jeimer Candelario and Isaac Paredes. Candelario's Tigers tenure has been decent, but Paredes is having a much better 2022 season than Candelario. The only problem is that Paredes isn't a Tiger, he's a Tampa Bay Ray. Yep, before the season started, the Tigers traded Paredes for outfielder Austin Meadows, who's currently injured. Somehow, the Rays found themselves in this trade tree and are the current winners of their trade. Typical Rays. Now let's go back to the initial canceled trade. Flores' tenure with the Mets was an overall positive experience, and after spending 1 year with the Diamondbacks, he's found a role on the Giants as a utility player. Not that it matters anymore, but Flores was involved in one of the most controversial calls of the 2021 postseason, when his checked swing was called an actual swing by the first base umpire, eliminating the Giants from the playoffs. As for the other player the Mets nearly traded, Zach Wheeler never quite showcased his true potential as a Met, so the Mets didn't re-sign him. Before the 2020 season, Wheeler signed a 5-year contract with the Phillies, where he has turned into one of the National League's premier starting pitchers. So now that we're done talking about the Mets, what happened to Carlos Gomez? Well, after the Mets deal fell through, Gomez was traded to the Astros for 4 prospects. Gomez never really replicated his all-star level talent with the Astros, ultimately being released in August 2016. After some stints with the Rangers and Rays, Gomez retired after the 2019 season, ironically with the Mets being the team he most recently played for. So how about the 4 prospects the Brewers received? The main 2 guys were Domingo Santana and Josh Hader. Santana's only real season as a starter was in 2017. While he excelled offensively, once the Brewers acquired Christian Yelich and Lorenzo Cain ahead of the 2018 season, Santana was relegated to the bench. After short stints in Seattle and Cleveland, Santana currently plays in Japan. As for Josh Hader, he's turned into arguably the most dominant closer of the past half-decade. This season, Hader has had some really rough appearances, but overall his tenure with the Brewers has been an overwhelming success. Now let's look at the other 2 players in the Gomez deal. Starting pitcher Adrian Houser actually made his big league debut less than 2 months after this trade occurred. However, that tenure was short, and he didn't get back to the big leagues until 2018. Since then, Houser has been a decent pitcher, but I say his most valuable achievement is being the subject of John Boy's 2nd most viewed breakdown ever. Now for the final player the Brewers received. Brett Phillips. After limited action with the Brewers, Phillips was traded to the Royals along with Jorge Lopez for Mike Moustakas. Funny enough, all 3 of these players are now with different teams. After an All-Star 2019 season with the Brewers, Moustakas signed a 4-year deal with the Reds. Jorge Lopez was placed on waivers by the Royals during the 2020 season, and the Orioles claimed him. After a couple rough seasons, Lopez has been one of the most surprising success stories of the 2022 season. After being converted into a reliever, Lopez has been one of the most effective pitchers in baseball, earning a spot in the All-Star game as a result. As for Brett Phillips, he was traded by the Royals to the Rays in mid-2020, where he created one of the most infamous moments in recent playoff history and has been a fan favorite ever since. So that covers everyone, right? Well, not quite. In the Gomez trade, there was one other player the Astros acquired, Mike Fiers. Fiers is not currently in the league, but he made his mark in MLB history as one of only 35 pitchers to throw multiple no-hitters. But he's also known for a different reason. While neither Gomez nor Fiers was part of the 2017 Astros World Series roster, one of them is forever linked to that team. There had been rumors that the Astros had been illegally stealing signs, but it was an article by The Athletic that unveiled the whole operation. Trash cans and all. The publication actually had someone from that 2017 squad talk about what the Astros did, and that player was Mike Fiers. He revealed that the Astros were using a camera in center field to steal signs from opposing teams. Without Fiers speaking out, would we ever know about this? Would Carlos Beltran still be the manager of the Mets? Would AJ Hinch still be in Houston? Like Fiers said, who knows what would have happened if I had stayed in Milwaukee. As for the rest of the timeline, what happens if the Mets team doctor actually cleared Gomez and the trade went through? Do the Mets still make the 2015 World Series? Does Josh Hader still become a multi-time award-winning closer? What happens to Michael Fulmer and Zach Wheeler and Brett Phillips and all the other players I've mentioned today? It's crazy that all of this stems from a trade that never happened. It kinda makes you wonder about the consequences of other deals that never happened. Well, what we do know is that this canceled deal changed baseball history. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Leave a like if you did, subscribe to Start Raving Sports, check out my channel SportStorm, and leave your butterfly effect in the comments. Thanks for watching.